This is the Sports Source, presented by Junk Be Gone. Now, your host, John Pennington.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Sports Source. Happy to have you joining us today. We got a lot to talk about. Tennessee had a scrimmage last night. We'll talk about what's the latest coming out of Vol Camp. We'll talk about most of the energy this offseason regarding Trey Smith has been spent on the question of will he be cleared? Will he play? We're going to ask the question, should he play, even if he is cleared? And I understand that, well, if doctors clear you, they clear you. But if that's your son or your brother, would you be so quick to say, get back out there and get back in there, kid? We'll discuss that. We'll also talk about some over-unders that I think you'll enjoy. I enjoyed writing them, so hopefully you'll enjoy listening to these guys debate them. And Chuck's brought his visor, so that would be good. He's taking it seriously. All right, let's get into it. First segment of our program brought to you by Junk Be Gone. What do these guys do? Better question, what don't they do? Dumpster rentals, which I always use them for. Junk removal, where they actually send a team and they load it up for you. They take it out of your house, load it up, haul it away. They do paper shredding for your company. Demolition and removal of sheds, barns, garages, boats, old swing sets, you name it, they can get rid of it. Junk Be Gone, whatever your junk is. They even told me once they had someone that needed a casket taken away. Hopefully there was no one in it. Junk Be Gone. Check them out at junkbegone.biz. All right, let me welcome in today's panel. It's a line change from last week. I love it now that we're 8 men deep, so we flip-flop and have different variations. Mike Strange right here, Ryan Callahan right there, Vince Ferrara, Chuck Cavaleris. And you can see who these guys are because when they talk, they have a little graphic that tells you exactly where you can find them. All right, the Vols held their second scrimmage of the season last night. Jeremy Pruitt had some nice words for Jarrett Guarantano. He wasn't glowing, but sounded like he was taking a step in the right direction. He wasn't happy with all of the penalties he saw. Okay, well, it's preseason. I get it. Turnovers, which, okay, that's one of the things about this scrimmage setup. Is that a good thing for the defense? Or is that a bad thing for your offense? Depends on your point of view, I suppose. Anything that stood out to you about what Jeremy Pruitt said last night, Vince?
I think the most positive things were that he mentioned that they have better team speed this year. Also that special teams has impressed him. So those are two good things. And in compliment, Jerry Guarantano talked about his consistency. He didn't really go out of his way to talk about the specifics of the scrimmage, though, and he had previously mentioned that Jerry Guarantano didn't have his best day in the first scrimmage. Right. Does that mean that he was inconsistent there? I think the penalties, though, I think the inconsistencies mean that you got a team that does a bunch of some good things sometimes, some bad things other times, and that's about what you have with a 6 or 7 win potential team. So I think it's consistent with that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say, I think the lines of scrimmage, because there's still such a focus, I think that's what stood out to me, and the fact that they're trying different combinations on the offensive line, and the fact that the defensive line continues to be up and down to the point that it's sort of just a common theme with that group. I think that's still a concern. Obviously, you got to worry about both of those positions first and foremost. And he pointed out this is a mature team in spots, and in certain places, immaturity shows up. And there's still a big gulf there, and that's to be expected, but they need those young guys to mature pretty quickly. This team's going to be counting on a lot of them. So I think that's what stood out the most to me, the lines of scrimmage. They've got to be good there if they're going to be any good this season.
Well, it seems if you graded the areas of concern, number 1A would still be defensive line, and 1B would be offensive line. And everything, if you're not winning there, you're in real trouble, and it doesn't sound like, I mean, it was just a week ago that Jeremy Pruitt said we're nowhere near finding the right 5 guys, and you're still running different combinations, one group after another, 2 weeks before the season opener. So that tells me that might not be lip service, what he was saying a week ago. And that's a concern 2 weeks before your season opener if you're still saying, all right, what about this combination? What about that combination? I don't think that's a positive sign at this point.
I think another problem is that he basically said, well, we have some guys that know what they're doing that don't make plays. And then we have other guys that don't know what they're doing, but they make plays. So which would you rather, Coach? We got to figure that out. That's kind of a mixed bag.
That's what I was going to say, kind of split it up into 3 groups, right. Of what we have. It's kind of like having a kid that acts up in school. They can behave and make good grades, but for some reason they're just not. Right. And how do you expect your offensive line to get better, John, if your defensive line is the weak link on your team in numbers and experience?
Right, and spoke to somebody this week who was talking about, well, the offensive line looks better. I thought, Well, they're going against what could be and probably is the weakest part of the team, which is your defensive line. So is it really getting better? Is it really looking better? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
Mike, jump in.
Just if you can't stop the run in the SEC with your defensive line, it just leads to so many problems. And I know a topic we're going to talk about later in this segment.
Well, let's just bring it up. The Solomon thing, Aubrey Solomon's still not cleared. And
I'm not thinking he's going to get cleared at this point. After I read more about Michigan and Jim Harbaugh and the way he's handled Michigan's transfers,
yeah,
I don't think he's going to play this year.
Well, and so much of it goes back to if you get the clearance by the coach that the player's leaving from, it typically goes the new team's way. You typically get a free pass. The fact that you haven't gotten that right now makes me think that Harbaugh is the one saying, no, we're not going to do it. Ryan, that's not exactly what he's saying.
No, not exactly. Yeah, I was going to say he's putting on a different front maybe from what's going on behind the scenes. I don't know that the problem is necessarily just Michigan, but maybe they drag
not just Michigan. I mean, we don't know when he filed his waiver for the NCAA. And then we do know that the NCAA came back and said, well, we want more information.
Right.
When was that?
Right.
So if that was 2 weeks ago,
So I don't,
2 months ago?
So I was going to say the issue could be Michigan just waiting too long to get back to them about the information they wanted, things like that. So there could be multiple explanations that aren't just Michigan putting up a fight, but I think that is at least a concern that it's dragged on this long, and you have to consider that as a real possibility.
I'm not saying it's all Michigan, but I would bet money that that's part of it at this point. Because typically when the coach clears it, all the other stuff seems to fall by the wayside and the guy gets cleared.
But I mean, at some point, why isn't there some kind of deadline, or why isn't there something, we're just going to have a hearing on this. You come present your side on why you should be eligible. Anybody that wants to speak out against you, you're welcome to be here. This is ridiculous.
But here's the thing. Because one, every case is different, is what they'll tell you. And two, how many kids are they talking to right now? Right. I mean, we're looking at one guy. We're looking at Solomon. Why isn't this done? Well, there are guys all over the country that, they're waiting on him, I mean, how many people in this country don't get to go to court as soon as they want to go to court because it's backed up on the docket? I'm not Mr. NCAA, but I will cut him a little slack on that point. I know where you're coming from, and it does seem like, how hard can this be? Well, I don't know. Do they have permanent people at the NCAA who do this, or is it guys who come in on once a week and they meet and do this and then they go back to their regular jobs? My guess is that's it.
As I read it this week, he is one of 3 Michigan transfers still waiting. One's been approved, one's been denied, and I think there are 3 guys, including Solomon.
And one's on the way. It sounds like a song.
And maybe stalling, if that's what's happening, is kind of intentional to decrease the odds of them getting cleared. One thing I was going to add on the offensive line, Jeremy Pruitt, I think, has sort of tipped his hand a little bit on this. I asked him about this week, the timeline for deciding on that group. He kind of indicated this may go into the season. That it may be one group one week, another group, and I think that's how he kind of plans to approach it with a couple of young guys, especially in Darnell Wright and Wanya Morris pushing for playing time.
Boy, that's tough. That's tough to do it that way.
I know fans are not going to like that, so I just wanted to throw that out there. I think it's a real possibility.
And then he'll be complaining about how inconsistent they are.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I know there are people out there. It's August now. They're starting to get that feeling. 9 wins, 10 wins. And you never know. Maybe this is setting up to be pie in the face for us. But the way I'm reading the tea leaves, instead of feeling better about things, I'm feeling more secure in my pick of 6-6 at this point. I just think this is a 6.5 over under. Makes sense. Yeah. We'll see. All right. Speaking of the offensive line, let's talk about that next. Again, as I teased right off the open of the show, so much of the Trey Smith talk is, will he be cleared? Is he going to play? Let's talk to these guys. Should he play? Tennessee's certainly taking it seriously. They're not rushing him back out there, and I think it's for good reason. We'll discuss that. Come on back on the Sports Source.
McLean's Painting, Knoxville's #1 painters since 1999. We turn your dream home into your reality. Visit McLeansPainting.com or call 769-8134 to set up your free estimate.